Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Carlos and welcome to the Media Coven. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched my last video and you liked it and then came back for the second one, thank you. If this is your first one, go back and watch the other one too. I reviewed in my last book, Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris. Today we're going to be reviewing The Shining. I read this book, I think around, because I always like to read books depending on the weather. I read The Shining when it was winter because I felt like it's a winter book. And it was around Christmas, and I always watch The Shining around Christmas because I feel that it's a Christmas movie, even though there's like a lot of bad stuff. I feel like it's a Christmas movie. And I actually don't know if I own the book because The Shining was the book I picked for when I was working because I like to listen to audiobooks while I'm working or podcasts. And I remember The Shining was the book that I decided to listen to while I'm at work. And I actually got it from Libby. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. That's where I got the audiobook for it, and that's where I listened to it. And something I think about Stephen King a lot is that a lot of people know him because of his horror books, because they think if you like Stephen King, you must be a fan of horror and all of that. And I am a fan of horror, but actually the thing that surprised me when I first started reading Stephen King books is that what I love about his books is the way that he's able to catch like people, like characters. He's able to describe people that I think you imagine actually existing in the world. He's really good at making up these characters with backstories, and you can relate to them and you can feel like you know them, like you were them maybe at one time. And another thing that I enjoyed, if you read a lot of Stephen King's books, you know that there's always like the main monster. Like if you look at the book It, there's the main monster, which of course is the clown, but then there's those side characters that scare you even more. The clown is scary, but I remember I was really scared of the bully because he was a normal kid, but he was capable of doing a lot of horrible things. The same thing happened when I read, I don't think it was in The Shining, I think it was in Doctor Sleep. There was the character about the grandfather. I don't remember if it was in this book or in the other book, but there was this grandfather that was like a really horrible person. And I remember I could see him very clearly in my head, and I was more scared of him than like the things that happened in the hotel in The Shining. It was like he was more scary. And this is something that Stephen King is really good at doing, because whenever you read his books, you really get entrapped into the world of the characters and all of that. There's these horrible things going on, there's the main story and all that, but something about the way he writes the characters that really hooked me to the stories. And I was really surprised about it because a lot of horror books maybe don't really have that. But then again, if I think back, I don't think I've read a lot of horror books. I read books with witches, vampires, but not his type of horror books. And like I said, the reason why I like his books was because of the way he writes characters. And another thing I remember very clearly was when I was in AP English in high school, I remember that our teacher did not like us reading Stephen King books because a lot of educators really look down on books that have to do with vampires or scary stuff. And looking back, I wish I had read the books when I was in high school, because I would have been able to defend Stephen King, defend Anne Rice, defend Charlene Harris, and show them that maybe they're not writing these huge books like Shakespeare or Moby Dick or all of that, but they're writing really, really well. They're making these worlds that are so amazing. They're making these characters that are so developed, and those are things that, if you're a writer, I think if you pick up on that, you can put it into your writing. I myself like to write. I read a couple short stories, working on a book here and there, but I don't like to call myself like an author or writer because I haven't published anything, but I do write almost every day, so maybe I am a writer. I remember that scene from Sister Act 2 where she's telling that girl where she was saying, if you wake up every morning and all you think about writing, then you're a writer, you're an author. You don't need me to tell you that you're an author. And it's the same thing. I don't see myself an author, but if I'm always writing, if I'm always coming up with stories, then maybe I am a writer. And something that I admire about Stephen King that I picked up from him is, if I can write characters like he does, I would be completely satisfied with my writing, because he's so good at doing that. And then later on, I can develop my story and all of that. But I do remember that in high school, his writing and all the other type of writing where they write about that, the teachers didn't really want us reading those type of books. They didn't see them as at the same class as the other books. And I was like, whatever. Now that I've read them, I really love them. I really respect these authors. And if anything, I respect the authors. Now, this is outside of Stephen King. Because I was going to say, I really respect authors. They can write these amazing stories in really small books. And like we know, Stephen King is not one of those. When I read the book, it took me so long to get through it. I was doing the audiobook and reading it at home because it was so long. But other authors like Charlene Harris, I always admire how much she puts into a story, and her books aren't that big. Even someone like R.L. Stine, books that I read when I was little, I'm amazed how much she's able to put into a story that you can read so quickly. Like, that's really impressive. But today we're talking about Stephen King, and the book is The Shining. When I read it, I wrote a small review about it, so I won't forget what I thought about the book, because I'm the type of person that if I finish a book, I go, what's next? I pick something else and I read it. So I always like to write reviews about the books, because like I said before, I have a page on Instagram called Walking Through Books, where I review books and just give a little like what I thought about it, how many stars I give it. And that's why I would always write the reviews, because my intentions were always to put it on that page. Now that I'm doing this where I'm talking about it, I'm gonna start writing the review so I can talk about it. And I'm just gonna read the review, and if I have any comments to add to it, I'll do it. But let's see what I thought about the book. It says The Shining by Stephen King, and I gave it 5 stars. That means it's a good book. I'm gonna probably read it again someday. And it starts, for years I have seen the movie. I have been obsessed with the movie, and I finally made time to read the book. And that's right. The movie, like I said, has always been my favorite movie. And I think every year, at least around Christmas, I like to watch it because it's my Christmas movie. And I do a combo of watching like the Home Alone movies, Harry Potter, and The Shining. For some reason, those are my holiday movies during the winter. And then I continue with the review. One thing I discovered right away is that the book and the movie are 2 different things. In most cases, that is very evident. We all know that the movie producers take special care to make the movie somewhat different from the book. In some cases, it works great. There's a bug walking in front of the camera. I think it's a fly. It scared me because I'm reading The Shining and I see like a blur walking by. What is it? Let me continue the review before I scare myself. And I was just saying that Stephen King's books aren't scary, and then I said, what's that blur walking by the camera? Now let me start all over. One thing I discovered right away is that the book and the movie are 2 different things. In most cases, that is very evident. We all know that the movie producers take special care to make the movie somewhat different from the book. In some cases, it works great, making the movie different, but still stays true to the book. And in others, it's a complete disaster. And around the time I read The Shining, I also read the documentary about The Shining. What was the name? I think it was, Room 314? I think that's it. I'm going to find it and maybe put it here if it's wrong. But I think that was the name of the movie. And they talk about the producer that made the movie. Because if all of you that have watched the movie The Shining, you know that there's this whole thing that people do where they talk about all the secret messages in The Shining. And that they have to do because the producer was the one who made videos about the moon landing and with the government and all that. And I don't even want to get into all that because that's conspiracy talk and I just don't want to get into it. We're just talking about the book. I'm just bringing up the fact that people are obsessed with the movie because it has so many hidden stuff that apparently has to do with corruption or with hiding secrets from the government, something like that. And then they also have this thing where I think people talk about the layout of the hotel, how it doesn't make any sense. Now, if you watch the movie and you see that, all I thought about it was, well, it doesn't make sense because they maybe don't care. When they're making a movie, maybe they just have sets where they need them to work for the scene. So they're like, we're going to do it like this. But now I think we live in a time where we break everything down. Like we look at something and we're like, what does it mean? Why did they do that? And maybe the producer did it on purpose where he made that office, like remember that office where the main character first walks in to get the interview, and then I remember them saying that that office could not be there with the window there because of the way the hotel is. When I see the movie, I just enjoy it. I don't pay any attention to any of that. But when I saw the documentary, I was like, what is going on? Why is it like that? And then I remembered in the documentary they say that Stephen King was not happy with the way they did his book. And then there was an argument between them. And then I think the producer made a scene where a car that looks like Stephen King's was crushed. And that was his way of attacking him, that he doesn't care if he's going to do his own thing. So it's like a whole mess. And I think this is why when I read the book, I said I enjoy the movie for what the movie is. I read the book and I enjoy the book for what the book is. Yes, they're inspired. The movie is inspired by the book, but let's treat them each by themselves. I'm going to review the book. The book is 5 stars. If I had to review the movie, I'm going to give it 5 stars too. And that's it. I don't want to get into the middle of what does it mean. Are there hidden secrets in it? Let's just keep it easy. And then the review continues with, I've seen many shows and I think this is where I talk about what I just said. I've seen many shows and discussions about the movie and the difference with the books, but now that I finally read the book, I can see these are two creatures entirely. And I am happy to say I love both. So yeah, I pretty much, what I just said right now, I have written down. And then I go, I do think that a lot of people don't give Stephen King props. The more I read his work, the more I see what an incredible writer he is, just like I was saying before. Yes, his main attraction is horror, but if you get to read his works, you see that his true talent comes from the creation of his characters. All his characters have so much depth. The villains are well created. They aren't just monsters, they have life. They are more than fictional characters. They stay with you forever. And that was basically the review I had written down for the book. Like I said, I never like to talk about the book in the sense of telling you what happened in it because I don't want to spoil anything. In some books, I might go into discussion about it, but for now, I just wanted to let you know what I thought about the book after I finished it, after I read it. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters. Like I said, Stephen King is such a good character writer. I really enjoy that about it. I do enjoy that it is scary. And I was saying it's not scary and then something walks through the camera. Nothing walked through the camera. It was just a bug. It was like a fly flying in front of the lens. But it did scare me. But let's pretend it didn't. And let's go back to the book. The book was really good. I'm going to give it 5 stars. If you read this book, tell me when you read it. Because I know this book, I think this book came out maybe in the 70s or maybe 60s. I don't know. But the first time reading it for me was around 2020 something. And then the movie, I've seen it many times. The book, I finally read it. And definitely if I give a book 5 stars, I'm definitely going to read it again sometime. Because I really enjoy Stephen King's writing. I'm trying not to go back to reading the same book over and over. Because I always do that. So I told myself, if you like one book, let's look at another Stephen King book and read another one. Don't get stuck in that same book reading it over and over. So maybe in my next review, I'm going to have another Stephen Stephen King book, and maybe I'll review some of his movies so we can compare and contrast. But for now, we're just doing The Shining by Stephen King. I gave it 5 stars because I really loved it. And thank you so much for watching. This is the Media Coven. And remember to keep on reading, vibe to the music, and keep your eyes on the screen. Until next time, bye.